The mop hit the floor with a wet slap, and that's when I heard it. The sound that would change everything. Room 4's door was shaking, not like someone was knocking, like something inside was trying to break through the wood itself. The metal handle rattled so violently I thought the screws would pop out. I froze, my fingers going numb around the mop handle. The fluorescent lights above me started flickering, throwing the hallway into strobe-like darkness. 1 second I could see, the next I was standing in pitch black with only that sound, that terrible rattling, filling my ears. Then my mop bucket tipped over. I watched the water spread across the linoleum, but it wasn't water anymore. It was black, thick and black like oil, spreading toward me like it had somewhere to be. I stumbled backward, my shoes squeaking on the wet floor. That's when I saw it. A small handprint appeared on the fogged glass window of room 4's door, child-sized. The fingers were spread wide, pressed against the glass from the inside. But here's what made my stomach drop. The print was on the inside of the glass, but the fog was on the outside. That's not how condensation works. That's not how any of this works. I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I ran. My keys jangled against my hip as I sprinted down that hallway, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. Behind me, I heard a sound like nails on a chalkboard, long and drawn out. I didn't look back. I burst through the exit door into the parking lot, gasping for air, my hands on my knees. The security light buzzed above me, attracting moths that threw shadows across the asphalt. If you're watching this, if you're listening to my story, remember this moment. Remember that I ran. Because I should have kept running. I should have gotten in my car and never come back. But I didn't. And now I need to tell you everything. Because someone needs to know. Someone needs to understand what Blackridge Academy really is. And whatever you do, whatever happens, never enter room 4. It started 3 weeks earlier. I was sitting in my apartment, scrolling through job listings with the kind of desperation that makes you ignore red flags. I'd been out of work for 2 months, my savings were gone, and my landlord had started leaving notes under my door. The kind of notes that use words like eviction and legal action. So when I saw the posting for a night janitor at Blackridge Academy, I didn't ask questions. The pay was almost double what I'd made at my last job. The hours were 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 5 nights a week. They wanted someone who could start immediately. I should have wondered why they were so desperate. I should have wondered why the pay was so high for mopping floors and emptying trash cans. But I needed money, and they were offering it. I sent my resume at 2 in the afternoon. They called me at 2:15. The woman on the phone had a voice like winter, cold and sharp. "Is this Marcus Webb?" she asked, not bothering with hello. "Yes, this is Marcus. This is Principal Caro from Blackridge Academy. I'm calling about the custodial position. Can you start tonight?" Tonight. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. Yes, I can start tonight. Good. Arrive at 9:30 for orientation. The address is 1840 Ashford Lane. Don't be late, Mr. Webb. We value punctuality. She hung up before I could respond. I should have heard the warning in her voice, that edge of something I couldn't quite name. But all I heard was a paycheck. Blackridge Academy sat on the edge of town, surrounded by trees that looked black in the darkness. The building itself was old, probably built in the 20s or 30s, all red brick and tall windows that reflected the moonlight like dead eyes. A wrought iron fence surrounded the property, and the gate was open when I arrived, even though there were no other cars in the parking lot except for a silver Mercedes near the main entrance. I parked my beat-up Honda next to it and felt immediately inadequate. The Mercedes was pristine, probably cost more than I'd make in 5 years. My car had a dent in the passenger door and a crack in the windshield I kept meaning to fix. I grabbed my jacket from the back seat and headed toward the main entrance, my shoes crunching on gravel. The door was unlocked. I stepped into a lobby that smelled like old books and floor polish. The floors were marble, veined with gray and white. A large chandelier hung from the ceiling, crystal pieces catching the light and throwing rainbow shadows across the walls. Portraits lined the hallway leading deeper into the building, old men in suits staring down at me with expressions that ranged from stern to contemptuous. I felt like I was being judged, found wanting, and dismissed. "Mr. Webb," the voice came from my left. I turned and saw her, Principal Caro. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, with gray hair pulled back in a bun so tight it looked painful. She wore a black suit and held a leather folder against her chest like a shield. Her eyes were pale blue, almost colorless, and they didn't blink when she looked at me. "Follow me." She turned and walked down the hallway without checking to see if I followed. I did, hurrying to keep up with her long strides. We passed classrooms with closed doors, a library with dark windows, a cafeteria that looked too big for the size of the building. Finally, she stopped in front of a door marked Administration and pulled out a key ring with at least 30 keys on it. The office inside was exactly what you'd expect. Desk, filing cabinets, diplomas on the wall. But it felt wrong somehow. Too cold. Too empty. Principal Caro sat behind the desk and gestured to the chair across from her. I sat. She opened the leather folder and pulled out several papers, sliding them across the desk toward me. "Your contract. Read it carefully before you sign." I pulled the papers closer and started reading. Standard stuff at first. Pay rate, hours, benefits. Then I got to the rules section, and that's where things got weird. Rule 7. All custodial staff must vacate the premises by 6 a.m. sharp. No exceptions. Rule 12. The third floor is off limits except for Tuesdays and Thursdays. Rule 19. Do not touch any locked doors. If a door is locked, it is locked for a reason. Rule 23. If you hear children's voices after midnight, ignore them. I looked up at Principal Caro. She was watching me with those pale eyes, her expression unreadable. "These rules are unusual. They exist for your safety, Mr. Webb. This is a very old building with very old systems. The third floor has structural issues we're addressing. Some doors are locked because they lead to areas under renovation. And the children's voices..." She paused and something flickered across her face. Fear? No, that couldn't be right. Sometimes sound carries strangely in old buildings. Students record things on their phones, leave speakers running as pranks. It's best to ignore it and continue with your work. It all sounded reasonable when she said it like that. Logical. I nodded and kept reading. The salary was at the bottom of the page, and the number made me stop caring about strange rules. I needed this job. I signed. Principal Caro took the contract and placed it back in her folder. Then she pulled out a different set of papers and set them in front of me. "These are maps of the building and your nightly checklist. You'll meet Harold Pollard shortly. He's been our night custodian for 15 years. He'll show you the ropes for the next week, then you'll be on your own." "Is he retiring?" I asked. Something changed in her expression. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "He's moving on to other opportunities. Now, if you'll wait here, I'll have someone bring him down." She left the office, her heels clicking on the marble floor outside. I sat there in the silence, looking at the maps she'd given me. The building was bigger than I thought. 3 floors, 2 wings, dozens of classrooms. The maps were detailed, showing every room, every hallway, every closet. Except for one thing, room 4 wasn't labeled. It was just a blank rectangle on the first floor map. No name, no purpose listed. Just empty space where a label should be. The door opened and Principal Caro returned, followed by a man who looked like he'd aged a decade overnight. Harold Pollard was maybe 60, with thin gray hair and deep circles under his eyes. His hands shook as he gripped a cigarette pack in his front pocket like it was a lifeline. He looked at me, then at Principal Caro, then at the floor. "Harold, this is Marcus Webb. He'll be shadowing you for the next week." Principal Caro's voice was cold, professional. "Please show him the supply room and begin the evening checklist." Harold nodded without looking up. "Yes, ma'am." Principal Caro turned to leave, then stopped at the door. She looked back at me, and for just a moment her professional mask slipped. I saw something underneath. concern, warning. Mr. Webb, do your job well, keep your head down, and follow the rules. All of them, without exception. Then she was gone, the door closing softly behind her. I looked at Harold. Up close, I could see how exhausted he was. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands trembling. "You okay, man?" I asked. He laughed, but it was bitter. "You seem like a decent guy, Marcus. Can I call you Marcus?" I nodded. "Good, because I'm going to tell you something and I need you to listen. Really listen." He pulled out a cigarette and stuck it between his lips, unlit. The school probably had rules against smoking inside, but he seemed to need it there anyway. This place, Blackridge Academy. It's not what it seems. Principal Caro gave you the official rules, the ones in the contract, but there are other rules, unwritten ones. Rules that'll keep you alive if you follow them. Alive? It's a school, Harold. What are you talking about? He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to hurt. His eyes met mine and I saw real terror there. Room 4, you saw it on the map, right? The unlabeled room? I nodded. Whatever you do, whatever you hear, whatever you see, never enter room 4. Don't touch the door. Don't look in the windows. Don't even walk on that side of the hallway if you can help it. That room, something's wrong with it. Something's been wrong with it for a long time. What do you mean wrong? He let go of my arm and stepped back, his hand shaking as he adjusted the cigarette. I've seen things, Marcus. Heard things. Things that don't make sense. Things that shouldn't be possible. I've watched 3 janitors come and go in my 15 years here. None of them lasted more than a few months. And the last one... He stopped, his face going pale. They found him in the parking lot at dawn. He was just sitting in his car, staring straight ahead. Wouldn't talk, wouldn't move. They had to call an ambulance. He never came back. What happened to him? He went in room 4. Harold's voice was barely a whisper. He went in, and something came out with him, something in his head, something that broke him. He looked toward the door, then back at me. Look, I'm giving my 2 weeks tonight. I can't do this anymore. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Every time I close my eyes, I see that door. I hear... He stopped himself. Just stay away from room 4, please. That's all I'm asking. Before I could respond, he turned and walked out of the office. I followed him through the hallways, my mind racing. This had to be some kind of hazing, right? Scare the new guy, make him jumpy, but the fear in Harold's eyes had been real, the way his hands shook, the exhaustion in his face. That wasn't an act. The supply room was in the basement, down a set of concrete stairs that smelled like mildew and old water. Harold showed me where everything was kept. Industrial mops, cleaning solutions, trash bags, everything I'd need. He moved mechanically, pointing things out without really seeing them, like he'd done this 1,000 times and was just going through the motions one last time. You start on the first floor, he said, handing me a spray bottle and a rag. Empty the trash cans in all the classrooms, wipe down the desks, mop the hallways. Second floor's the same, but you only do that on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Third floor is Tuesdays and Thursdays only, and you need to get special permission from Principal Caro before going up there. Got it? Got it. What about tonight? Tonight's Wednesday, first and second floor. He grabbed a mop and bucket, filled it with water and solution, and handed it to me. We'll work together tonight. I'll show you the routine. We started on the second floor. Harold wanted to avoid the first floor as long as possible, and I didn't push him. The classrooms were standard. Desks in rows, whiteboards on the walls, posters about punctuation and the periodic table. We emptied trash cans, wiped surfaces, moved through the building like ghosts. Harold barely spoke, just showed me what needed to be done and moved to the next room. Around 11:30, we finished the second floor and headed down to the first. That's when I felt it, a change in the air. It got colder as we descended the stairs and heavier, like the atmosphere had weight. Harold felt it too. His shoulders tensed and he gripped his mop handle tighter. The first floor hallway stretched out in both directions from the main lobby. Harold pointed left. We'll start on the west wing. Work our way east. The east wing is where... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Room 4 was in the east wing. We worked in silence, moving from classroom to classroom. Everything was normal until we got about halfway through the west wing. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Small, quick footsteps running down the hallway. I looked at Harold. He'd heard it too. His face had gone white. "Keep working," he whispered. "Don't look. Don't acknowledge it. Just keep working." I tried. I really did. But the footsteps got louder, coming closer. They stopped right outside the classroom we were in. I held my breath, staring at the doorway. Nothing. No one was there. Then I heard it. A child's giggle. High and bright, followed by more running footsteps moving away down the hall. "What the hell was that?" I asked. Harold's hand was shaking so badly he could barely hold the mop. "I told you, weird sounds, old building, just ignore it." But I couldn't ignore it because I knew what I'd heard. Those were real footsteps, real laughter, and there were no children in this building, not at midnight. We finished the west wing and stood at the junction where the hallway split. Left led back to the lobby, right led to the east wing, to room 4. Harold stared down that hallway like he was looking into a grave. "I can't," he said suddenly. "I can't go down there anymore. I'm done, Marcus. I'm sorry, but I'm done." He dropped his mop and started walking toward the exit. "Do the east wing if you want, or don't. I don't care anymore. I just need to get out of here." "Wait, Harold, what?" But he was already gone, pushing through the exit doors into the parking lot. I stood there alone in the lobby, holding my mop, staring down the east wing hallway. The lights were dimmer down there, and the shadows seemed darker. I could see the classroom doors lining both sides, and at the end of the hallway, I could see it. Room 4. The door was different from the others. Darker wood, 2 locks instead of 1, and even from this distance I could see scratches around the frame like something with claws had tried to get out. Or in. I should have left. I should have followed Harold out to the parking lot and never come back. But I needed this job. And it was just a hallway, just a door. Harold was clearly having some kind of breakdown, seeing things that weren't there. I was rational, logical. I didn't believe in ghosts or monsters or whatever he thought was in that room. So I walked down the east wing hallway. My footsteps echoed off the walls. The temperature dropped with each step, cold enough that I could see my breath. I cleaned the first classroom on the left, then the one on the right. Worked my way closer to room 4. Everything was normal. Just another school hallway. Just another night of mopping floors and emptying trash. Then I got to the classroom directly across from room 4, and I made the mistake of looking at it. Really looking at it. The door was solid wood, painted dark brown, almost black. The number 4 was on the door, brass digits that looked old and tarnished. There were 2 deadbolts, both engaged, and the scratches around the frame weren't just on the outside. They were on the inside too, visible through the gap between the door and the frame. Long, deep gouges in the wood, like something had been trying to claw its way out. I stood there, staring at that door, and felt something I hadn't felt since I was a child. Pure, instinctive fear, the kind that lives in your bones and tells you to run now, before it's too late. But I didn't run. I finished cleaning the classroom across from room 4, keeping my back to that door the whole time, feeling like something was watching me through the glass window. When I finally turned around to leave, I saw it. A smudge on the window glass of room 4's door. A small handprint, child-sized, on the inside of the glass. My blood turned to ice. I stepped closer, telling myself it was old. Just some student's handprint from days ago that hadn't been cleaned. But as I got closer, I saw something that made my stomach clench. The handprint was fresh. I could see the oil from skin still glistening on the glass. And it hadn't been there when I entered the classroom across the hall. I would have noticed. Someone had just pressed their hand against that window. From inside, I backed away from the door, my heart pounding. There was no way. The room was locked. 2 deadbolts. No one could be inside, unless someone had been locked in there. A student, maybe? But at midnight? Why would anyone lock a student in a classroom at midnight? I pulled out my phone and called Harold. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I stood there in that hallway, alone, staring at that handprint, trying to decide what to do. Call Principal Caro? Call the police? Or just finish my shift and mention it in the morning? That's when I heard it. Soft crying, muffled, like it was coming from far away, but it was definitely coming from room 4. A child crying, not scared crying. Sad crying. The kind of crying that comes from deep loneliness, from being forgotten. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded small in the empty hallway. "Is someone in there?" The crying stopped. Silence. Then, so quiet I almost missed it. A whisper. "Help me." Every instinct I had told me to run, but there was a kid in there, a kid who needed help. I stepped up to the door and pressed my ear against it. "I'm going to get help, okay? I'm going to find someone with keys and we'll get you out." "No," the voice was clearer now, a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. "No grown-ups. They know. They all know. They leave me here." "Who leaves you there? What are you talking about?" "The teachers, the principal, the janitors. Everyone knows about me. Everyone knows about room 4. Her voice cracked. "Please. Just open the door. The key is in the main office. Please." I stood there, torn. This didn't make sense. Why would the staff lock a child in a classroom? But I'd heard her. She was real. She needed help. "Okay," I said. "Okay, I'll get the key. Just hold on." I ran to the main office. The door was locked, but I had a master key on my ring. Harold had given it to me at the start of the shift. I unlocked the office and went straight to the key cabinet on the wall. It was locked too, but the key was taped to the top of the frame. Security through obscurity, I guess. I opened the cabinet and saw rows of keys, all labeled. Room 1, room 2, room 3. But no room 4. I searched through all the keys twice. Nothing. Then I saw it. A single key on a red string, hanging on a separate hook at the back of the cabinet. It wasn't labeled, but something told me this was it. I grabbed it and ran back to the east wing. The hallway felt different, darker. The shadows seemed to move as I passed. I got to room 4 and held up the key. My hand was shaking. "I've got it," I called through the door. "I'm going to unlock it now." "Thank you," the little girl whispered. "Thank you so much." I put the key in the top deadbolt. It turned smoothly. Then I unlocked the bottom deadbolt. Both locks clicked open. I grabbed the handle, took a deep breath, and started to turn it. "Stop!" the voice came from behind me. I spun around and saw Principal Caro running down the hallway, her face pale with terror. "Don't open that door!" I froze, my hand still on the handle. "There's a child in there. She's been locked in. She needs help." "There's no child in that room, Mr. Webb." Principal Caro stopped a few feet away from me, breathing hard. She looked at the key in my hand, then at the unlocked deadbolts, then at my face. "Step away from the door. Now." "But I heard her. She's crying. She asked me to help her." "What you heard wasn't a child." Principal Caro's voice was steady now, but I could see fear in her eyes. Real, bone-deep fear. "Lock those deadbolts, put the key back, and never ever come near this door again." "I don't understand. What's in there?" She looked at the door, then back at me. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then she sighed, and suddenly she looked older, tired. "Come with me, Mr. Webb. It's time you learned the truth about Blackridge Academy." I locked the deadbolts with shaking hands and followed Principal Caro back to her office. She closed the door behind us, locked it, and went to a filing cabinet in the corner. She pulled out a thick folder and dropped it on her desk. "Sit down," she said. It wasn't a request. I sat. She opened the folder and pulled out a black and white photograph. It showed a classroom full of children, maybe 20 of them sitting at desks. They all looked wrong somehow. Their faces were blank, expressionless, Their eyes were dead. This photo was taken in 1962, Principal Caro said. Room 4. These children were part of a special program funded by the government. They called it the Obedience Initiative. The goal was to study methods of behavioral control in gifted children. They used psychological manipulation, sensory deprivation, isolation techniques. They wanted to create perfectly obedient students who could be molded into whatever the government needed. I stared at the photo, my stomach turning. That's horrific. It was, and it worked. Too well. The children became obedient, yes, but they lost something else, their sense of self, their individuality. They became empty shells, just waiting to be filled with whatever instructions they were given. She pulled out another photo. This one showed a little girl sitting alone in the center of the classroom. She was maybe 8 years old with long, dark hair. Her eyes were completely black, like someone had colored them in with marker. This is Amelia Hart. She was the last subject in the program, the final experiment. What happened to her? Principal Caro's hands trembled as she held the photo. They pushed too hard, used too many techniques at once, broke her mind completely. And when a human mind breaks that thoroughly, when it's been tortured and twisted and emptied out, sometimes something else moves in, something that was waiting. Something hungry. You're talking about possession, like a demon or something. I'm talking about something worse, a parasite, an entity that feeds on fear and obedience. It attached itself to Amelia, or to what was left of her. And when the researchers realized what they'd created, they tried to shut down the program, but it was too late. The entity had rooted itself in room 4. It couldn't leave, but it could call to people, lure them in, and once they entered, she looked at me with those pale eyes. It takes something from them, a piece of their mind, their sanity. It feeds on it. I sat back in the chair, trying to process what she was telling me. This couldn't be real. This had to be some elaborate story, some way to keep people out of a dangerous room. But the fear in her eyes was real. The trembling in her hands was real. Why not just demolish the room? Tear down the building? We tried. 3 times. Each time something happened. Workers got injured. Equipment malfunctioned, and the entity just gets angrier when we try. So we locked it up. Set rules. Keep people away from it. Feed it just enough to keep it contained. Feed it? What do you mean, feed it? She didn't answer. She just looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Guilt? Shame. Go home, Mr. Webb. Take tomorrow night off. I'll pay you for the full shift. And when you come back, stay away from room 4. If you follow that one rule, you'll be fine. The entity can't leave the room. It can only call to you. As long as you don't open that door, you're safe. I left the office in a daze. I got in my car and drove home, my mind spinning. Part of me wanted to quit right then, but the rational part of me, the part that needed to pay rent and buy food, told me Principal Caro was crazy. There was no entity, no possession, just an old building with a dark history and a principal who'd been alone with that history for too long. I went to bed that morning as the sun came up, but I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that handprint on the glass, kept hearing that little girl's voice. Help me. Over the next week, I tried to focus on my job and ignore room 4, but it was like trying to ignore a black hole. It pulled at my attention constantly. Every time I walked past that hallway, I felt it watching me. Every time I cleaned the classrooms in the East Wing, I heard sounds coming from behind that door. Crying, whispering, sometimes laughing. Harold never came back. I worked alone, following the checklists, following the rules. But each night the sounds from room 4 got louder, more insistent, and I started seeing things, shadows moving in my peripheral vision, faces in the windows, a little girl standing at the end of hallways, watching me, then disappearing when I looked directly at her. I tried to tell myself it was exhaustion, stress, the power of suggestion, but I knew the truth. Something was in room 4, and it wanted out. By the end of my second week, I was barely sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that classroom. Saw those empty-eyed children. Saw Amelia Hart with her black eyes. sitting alone in the center of the room. I started making mistakes at work, forgot to lock doors. Spilled cleaning solution, Principal Caro noticed. She called me into her office on a Thursday night. "You're not sleeping," she said. It wasn't a question. "I'm fine." "No, you're not. You look like Harold did in his final weeks. You're thinking about room 4 constantly. You're listening for it, watching for it." She leaned forward across her desk. "It's getting inside your head, Mr. Webb. That's what it does. It plants a seed of curiosity, of obligation. It makes you think you need to go in there, that you need to help, but there's nothing in that room that needs helping. There's only something that needs feeding. I haven't gone near it. I've followed the rules." "But you want to. I can see it in your eyes. You want to open that door. You want to see what's inside. You want to prove that I'm lying, that there's nothing supernatural in there, that it's all just an old story to scare custodians." She pulled out another file from her drawer. This was the janitor before Harold, Michael Chen, worked here for 3 months. Smart man, engineer before he lost his job in the recession, didn't believe in ghosts or entities. Just like you. She opened the file and showed me photos. Security camera footage, printed on paper. The first photo showed a man standing in front of room 4 at 3:17 in the morning. The second showed him unlocking the door. The third showed him entering. The fourth showed him leaving 20 minutes later. But something was wrong with him in that fourth photo. His face was slack, his eyes empty. He looked like the children in that old photograph, hollowed out. We found him in his car at dawn. He was catatonic, wouldn't respond to anything. They took him to County General, then transferred him to a psychiatric facility upstate. He's still there, still won't speak, just sits in his room and stares at the wall. She closed the file. The entity took something from him, something essential, and it will take something from you too if you let it. I stood up, my legs shaking. "I want to quit." "I can't let you do that." "What do you mean you can't let me? This is insane. There's something wrong with this school, with that room, and I want out." Principal Caro's expression hardened. "You signed a contract, Mr. Webb. 6 months minimum employment. If you break that contract, you'll owe us $15,000 in training fees and damages. Do you have $15,000? I didn't. I barely had $15. You can't enforce that. That's not legal. Take it up with our lawyers. The firm is listed in your contract. I believe they're on the 23rd floor of the Morrison Building downtown. Very expensive lawyers, Mr. Webb. Very good at what they do." She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the dark school grounds. "I know this is difficult. I know you're scared, but you're safer here following the rules than you would be breaking your contract and trying to run. The entity in room 4 has a reach beyond these walls for those it considers unfinished business. If you quit now while it's focused on you, it won't let you go. It will follow you, haunt you, drive you mad. Your only option is to finish your contract, keep your distance from room 4, and let its attention move to something else. This is insane. You're keeping people prisoner here to feed some kind of monster. I'm keeping people alive. The alternative is worse, much worse." She turned back to me. "Go home, Mr. Webb. Get some rest. Tomorrow night is Friday. After that, you'll have 2 nights off. Use them to clear your head. And when you come back, just do your job. Clean the floors. Empty the trash. Stay away from room 4. 6 months will pass faster than you think." I left her office feeling trapped. She was right about the contract. I'd signed it without reading carefully, desperate for money, and I didn't have $15,000. I didn't even have $1,500. I was stuck here, working in a building with something that fed on people's sanity. And my only option was to avoid it for 6 months and hope it didn't decide I was interesting enough to hunt. That Friday night, I worked faster than ever. I wanted to finish and get out as quickly as possible. I cleaned the 2nd floor in record time, then headed down to the 1st floor. I saved the east wing for last, as I always did, dreading the moment I'd have to walk past room 4. When I finally made it to that hallway, something was different. The air was colder than usual, cold enough that frost had formed on the windows. My breath came out in visible puffs, and the lights were flickering, strobing the hallway in random patterns of light and shadow. I started cleaning the first classroom on the left, working as fast as I could. The whole time, I felt watched. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Something was different tonight. The entity was more active, more present. I could feel its attention focused on me like a spotlight. I finished that classroom and moved to the next. As I mopped, I heard it, that voice. The little girl. But she wasn't crying this time. She was singing. A lullaby, old and slightly off-key. The melody drifted through the walls, sweet and horrible at the same time. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. I gripped my mop tighter, trying to ignore it. Trying to focus on my work. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. The singing got louder, closer, like she was right outside the classroom door. And if that mockingbird won't sing... I looked up. She was standing in the doorway. Amelia Hart, or what was left of her. She looked like the photo, dark hair hanging loose around her face, but her eyes were completely black, reflecting no light, and she was translucent, like fog in the shape of a girl. Mama's gonna buy you a diamond ring. She smiled at me. Her teeth were too sharp, too many. You've been ignoring me, Marcus. That's not very nice. I just want to be friends. I get so lonely in that room, so very, very lonely. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She took a step into the classroom, and the temperature dropped even further. Ice crystals formed on the windows. My mop bucket started to freeze, the water turning solid. You want to help me, don't you? Her voice was sweet, childlike, but underneath it was something else, something ancient and hungry. Everyone says they want to help me. But they never do. They lock me up and leave me alone. You're different, though. I can feel it. You actually care. Stay back, I managed to whisper. She laughed, and the sound echoed wrong, like multiple voices laughing at once. You can't tell me what to do out here. I can go anywhere in this building. I can be in every shadow, every reflection, every dark corner, but I can't leave. I'm bound to room 4. The only way I can leave is if someone takes my place. She moved closer, gliding rather than walking. That's what I need, Marcus. Someone to take my place. Someone to sit in that room and feed the hunger. And then I'll be free. We'll both be free. I'm not going in that room. You will. Eventually. They all do. The curiosity becomes too much. The need to know becomes overwhelming. You'll open that door, Marcus. Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when you do, I'll finally be free. She reached out toward me with one translucent hand. I stumbled backward, knocking over my mop bucket. The frozen water shattered on the floor like glass. My back hit the wall and she was right in front of me, her black eyes inches from mine. I can smell your fear, she whispered. It's delicious. It's been so long since I had fear this fresh, this pure. Keep being afraid, Marcus. It makes you so much more interesting. Then she was gone, just vanished like smoke. The temperature returned to normal. The lights stopped flickering. I stood there against the wall, shaking, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I left. I didn't finish cleaning the East Wing. I didn't care about the checklist or the rules or the contract. I grabbed my keys and ran out of that building, got in my car, and drove home with my hands shaking so badly I almost crashed twice. I spent the weekend trying to convince myself it was a hallucination. Stress-induced psychosis. Carbon monoxide leak. Anything but the truth. But I knew what I'd seen, what I'd felt. The entity in room 4 was real, and it had decided I was its next target. Monday night came too fast. I almost didn't go back. I sat in my car in the Blackridge parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the building, trying to find the courage to quit, to just drive away and deal with the consequences. But where would I go? I had no money, no other job, nowhere to run. And Principal Caro's words echoed in my head. It will follow you, haunt you, drive you mad. I was trapped. I went inside and found a note taped to my supply cart. 3rd floor tonight. Tuesday schedule. Key is with security guard at front entrance. PC. The third floor. The one I'd only been to twice, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The one that supposedly had structural issues. I went to the front entrance and found the security guard, an older man named Tom who usually worked days but was covering a night shift. He handed me a key with a yellow tag. Third floor, huh? Rather you than me. He shook his head. Whole floor gives me the creeps. Too quiet up there. Too empty. I took the key and headed for the stairs. The third floor was smaller than the first two, just one long hallway with offices on either side. Administrative offices mostly. I unlocked the stairwell door and climbed up, my footsteps echoing in the concrete shaft. The third floor was dark. The lights were off, and when I tried the switch, nothing happened. Great. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, showing me a hallway lined with closed doors. Dust covered everything. No one had been up here in weeks, maybe months. I started at the far end, working my way back toward the stairs. The offices were standard, desks, filing cabinets, chairs, but everything was covered in dust, and some of the furniture looked decades old. As I cleaned, I found things, old memos from the 1970s, student files from the 1960s, and then, in the last office on the left, I found something that made my blood run cold. A filing cabinet with a broken lock. Inside were folders marked Obedience Initiative, Classified. I pulled them out and started reading. Principal Caro had told me the truth, but not all of it. The program had been worse than she'd described. Much worse. The documents detailed everything. The Obedience Initiative had started in 1959, funded by a joint project between the Department of Defense and an unnamed private research firm. They'd selected 20 children, all orphans with no family to ask questions. They'd subjected them to psychological torture disguised as behavioral modification, isolation chambers, sensory deprivation, drug trials, electroshock therapy, all in the name of creating perfectly obedient soldiers who could be programmed like machines. Amelia Hart had been special. The documents called her Subject Zero. She'd shown unusual resistance to the programming, maintained her sense of self longer than the others. So they'd pushed harder, kept her isolated for weeks at a time, used experimental drugs that hadn't been approved for human testing. And finally, they'd broken her. But something had broken with her. The documents became strange after that. Clinical language gave way to panicked reports. Researchers describing impossible events, objects moving on their own, temperature fluctuations, shadows that moved independently, and Amelia herself changing, her eyes turning black, her voice speaking in languages she'd never learned, her body doing things bodies shouldn't be able to do. They'd called in specialists, psychologists, neurologists, even a priest. Nothing worked. Whatever had moved into Amelia wasn't leaving, and it was spreading. Other children in the program started showing symptoms, black eyes, strange voices, unnatural movements. The researchers tried to shut down the program, evacuate the building, but the entity wouldn't let them. It had rooted itself in room 4, in the place where Amelia had finally broken. The final document was a report dated March 15, 1963. It recommended sealing room 4 permanently, keeping armed guards on site, and never, under any circumstances, allowing anyone to enter. But someone had written a note in the margin, handwriting shaky and desperate. I can't seal it. It needs to feed. If it starves, it will break containment, must maintain minimum interaction protocol. I sat there in that dusty office, reading by phone light, understanding finally what Principal Caro had meant. They couldn't just lock the door and forget about it. The entity needed to feed on fear, on sanity, on the essence of human minds. So they developed a system, hire night janitors, let the entity interact with them just enough to feed, keep it satisfied but contained. And when a janitor got too close, too interesting to the entity, they'd either break or they'd disappear, and a new janitor would be hired. I was food. We were all food. The janitors, the maintenance workers, anyone who worked alone in the building at night. We were cattle, brought in to feed the thing in room 4, My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You found the files. Good. Now you understand. Come to room 4, Marcus. Come see the truth. I dropped the phone. It clattered on the desk, the light spinning wildly. How did she know? How could she know I was reading these files? Unless she could see through the building somehow, sense what everyone was doing. Another text. I can feel you, Marcus. I can feel your fear, your anger, your desperation. You want to run, but you know you can't. So why not come visit? Let's talk face to face. Just you and me. I picked up the phone with shaking hands. I should run. I should get out of this building and never come back. But something was pulling at me. Curiosity, the need to see, the need to know if everything in those files was true. No, that was the entity talking. That was exactly what it wanted. It was in my head, planting suggestions, making me want to open that door. I forced myself to stand up, to leave the office, to head for the stairs. I had to get out. Now, before it was too late. But when I reached the stairwell door, it was locked. I tried my key. Nothing. I tried forcing it. The door wouldn't budge. I ran to the other end of the hallway, looking for another exit. There wasn't one. The 3rd floor had only one way down, and that door was locked. My phone buzzed again. There's no running, Marcus. Not anymore. You're mine now. You've been mine since the moment you walked into this building. I chose you. Principal Caro chose you. We all chose you. You're emotionally compliant, desperate, perfect for integration. Integration. The word from Michael Chen's file. The janitor who'd entered room 4 and come out empty. I was trapped on the 3rd floor with no way down. I pulled out my phone and called 911. No signal. I tried Principal Caro. No signal. I tried Tom, the security guard. Nothing. The building was blocking my signal somehow. The lights came on. All at once, every light on the 3rd floor blazed to life. And in that sudden brightness, I saw her. Amelia, standing at the far end of the hallway. She was more solid now, more real. Her black eyes fixed on me. Come down, Marcus. Come to the 1st floor. Come to room 4. Let's finish this. No, you don't have a choice. You're mine. You've always been mine. She started walking toward me, and with each step, the lights behind her went out. A wave of darkness following her. You can walk down on your own, or I can drag you down. Either way, you're coming to room 4. I ran, back to the offices looking for anything I could use. A weapon, a tool, anything. I found a fire extinguisher on the wall and grabbed it. It wasn't much, but it was something. Amelia appeared in the doorway, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. You can't fight me, Marcus. I'm not really here. I'm in room 4. I'm always in room 4. This is just a projection, a shadow. You're fighting air. She was right. The fire extinguisher would do nothing, but maybe there was another way. If she was a projection, if her real form was in room 4, then maybe I could break the connection. I looked around the office and saw it, the circuit breaker panel on the wall. I ran to it and yanked it open. Inside were dozens of switches. I started flipping them, killing power to different sections of the building. The lights in the office went out, the hallway lights went out, and Amelia's form flickered, became less solid. Clever, her voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. But it won't work. I don't need electricity to exist. I don't need anything but fear. And you're giving me so much fear, Marcus, enough to feed on for weeks. But I kept flipping switches, killing every circuit I could find. The building went dark, completely dark except for the emergency exit signs. And in that darkness, I heard something, the stairwell door unlocking. Click. I ran, fumbled my way through the dark hallway, hands on the walls, moving toward where I remembered the stairs being. My phone light helped, but barely. The battery was dying, down to 15%. I found the door and pushed through, nearly falling down the concrete stairs in my haste. Behind me, I heard laughter echoing through the stairwell. Not Amelia's voice, something deeper, older. The entity itself, amused by my attempt to escape. I reached the first floor and burst through the door into the main hallway. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow. The building was on backup power, just enough to keep the exit signs lit. I ran for the front entrance, my footsteps echoing. The door was locked. Of course it was. I spun around and saw every door in the hallway slamming open and shut in sequence, creating a wave of sound that moved toward me. At the end of the hallway, in the red emergency light, I saw her, Amelia, but not alone. Behind her were others, the other children from the program, all of them with black eyes, all of them translucent and wrong. "There's nowhere to run," Amelia said. "We own this building, every room, every hallway, every shadow. You can't leave until we let you leave, and we won't let you leave until you come to room 4. The hallway started changing. The walls stretched, became longer. The ceiling lowered, the floor tilted. The building itself was warping, becoming a maze designed to funnel me toward one destination, room 4. I ran anyway, tried every door, every window, every possible exit. But the building kept changing, kept rearranging itself. Classrooms led to other classrooms. Hallways looped back on themselves. And always, I ended up back in the east wing of the first floor, back in front of room 4. The door was open now, not just unlocked, open. And inside I could see the room from the photographs. Desks arranged in a circle, children's drawings on the walls, crude pictures of black figures with too many teeth. And in the center, a single small wooden chair, waiting. "Sit down, Marcus." Amelia's voice came from inside the room. "Just sit down. It will all be over soon. The fear, the running, the desperation. It will all end. You'll be at peace. Empty. Free." I stood in that doorway, staring into room 4, and realized I had a choice. I could enter and let the entity take me, become like Michael Chen, hollow and empty. Or I could fight. Even if I couldn't win, I could fight. I pulled out my phone, 5% battery. I opened the camera and hit record. "My name is Marcus Webb," I said into the camera, my voice shaking. "If you're watching this, I'm probably gone, but you need to know what happened here. You need to know about Blackridge Academy and room 4. I turned the camera toward the open door, showing the twisted classroom inside. "There's an entity here. Something that was created when government researchers tortured children in the name of obedience training. It feeds on fear and sanity. It's been feeding on janitors and maintenance workers for decades. And the school administration knows. They've always known. They hire people specifically to feed it." I turned the camera back to myself. "I'm going to try something. I don't know if it will work, but I have to try. If you find this phone, if you find this video, show it to someone. Show it to everyone. Shut this place down. Burn it to the ground if you have to. But don't let anyone else end up like me." I sent the video to every contact in my phone, uploaded it to every social media account I had. 2% battery. The phone was dying, but maybe someone would see it. Maybe someone would understand. Then I did something that surprised even me. I didn't enter room 4. I slammed the door shut, locked both deadbolts, and I ran to the supply room. In the basement, I found what I needed: cleaning supplies, industrial chemicals, the kind that come with warning labels about mixing them. I grabbed bottles of bleach, ammonia, anything that looked dangerous. Then I ran back upstairs. The building was fighting me the whole way. Doors appeared where there shouldn't be doors. Hallways twisted. But I kept moving, kept pushing forward, because I'd realized something. The entity couldn't leave room 4. It could project, could influence the building, but its core was in that room. And if I couldn't escape, then maybe I could trap it. Really trap it. I got back to the east wing and started pouring chemicals on the floor outside room 4, creating a barrier. The smell was overwhelming, toxic. My eyes watered and my throat burned. But I kept pouring, kept creating a line that the entity couldn't cross without a physical form to carry it. "What are you doing?" Amelia's voice, now angry, now desperate. "You can't trap me. I've been here for 60 years. I know every trick, every attempt. They've all failed." "Maybe," I said, still pouring. But they never tried to starve you. What happens if no one comes near you? What happens if I seal this hallway, call the fire department, get this building condemned? You said you need to feed. What happens if you can't? The door to room 4 started shaking violently, just like in my vision. The entity was angry, scared, good. I'll kill you. Amelia's voice had changed, become deeper, more primal. The entity itself was speaking now. I'll tear your mind apart. I'll make you suffer for years. Decades. I'll trap you in a loop of your worst nightmares and never let you wake up. Then do it. Come out here and do it. I finished pouring and stepped back. The chemical barrier surrounded the door, a crude circle of toxic substances. But you can't, can you? You're bound to that room. You need someone to willingly enter. That's the rule. That's the limitation. The shaking stopped. Silence. Then I heard crying. Real crying. Not the entity, not Amelia's projection. The real Amelia. The 8-year-old girl who'd been tortured and broken and trapped in that room for 60 years. Please, her small voice called out. Please, don't leave me here. I'm so scared. I'm so alone. I just want it to end. My resolve wavered. That was a real child in there, or what was left of one, but I couldn't help her. Opening that door would doom me and free the entity. The best I could do was make sure no one else got hurt. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry for what they did to you, but I can't let you out. I can't let it out. I turned and walked away. The crying followed me, echoing through the hallways, breaking my heart with every step, but I kept walking, got to the front entrance and found that it was unlocked now. The entity had released its hold on the building, conserving energy. I walked out into the parking lot. Dawn was breaking, painting the sky pink and gold. My phone was dead, but I'd sent that video. People would see it. They'd have to investigate. I got in my car and drove straight to the police station, told them everything. They thought I was crazy at first, but I insisted, made them check the school. They found the files on the 3rd floor, found the chemical barrier, found evidence of the obedience initiative. It took weeks, but eventually, the truth came out. Blackridge Academy was shut down. The building was seized by the state. There were investigations, congressional hearings, demands for accountability. Principal Caro disappeared before they could arrest her. Most of the board of directors claimed ignorance, though several were charged with conspiracy. But room 4 remained locked. The investigators wouldn't enter it. Couldn't enter it. Anyone who tried felt overwhelming dread, a certainty that opening that door would be the last thing they ever did. So they sealed it. Boarded up the entrance to the east wing, posted guards, and eventually just locked the whole building. It sits there still, Blackridge Academy, empty and condemned, with something angry and hungry locked in room 4, waiting for someone curious enough, desperate enough, or foolish enough to open that door. I never went back. I still have nightmares about that place, about Amelia's crying, about those black eyes staring at me in the dark. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. Should I have tried to help her? Could I have somehow freed the real Amelia and trapped only the entity? But then I remember Michael Chen, still catatonic in his hospital room. I remember Harold Pollard, who quit and moved to Alaska, as far from Blackridge as he could get. I remember all the janitors before us, all the people who'd been fed to that thing. I did what I had to do. I survived. If you're ever in a town with an old, abandoned private school called Blackridge Academy, if you ever see a building with boarded-up windows and a chain-link fence covered in warning signs, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't investigate. Don't let curiosity get the better of you, because room 4 is still there, still locked, still waiting. And the entity inside is patient. It's been patient for 60 years. It can wait 60 more. Just never, ever open that door. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more terrifying tales, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Drop a comment below telling me what you think happened to the real Amelia and whether you would have made the same choice I did. Could you have walked away? And if you have your own scary school stories, I want to hear them. Share them in the comments. Until next time, Stay safe, and remember, some doors are locked for a reason.